Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports, and this is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Friday, September 5th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks. It's going to be 5 players in total. It's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over my cheat sheet and talk through my top GPP teams to stack for Friday's slate overall. And then in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report that'll have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I'll also be listing as many of these starting lineups and get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be sure to check up down in that comment section so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information, especially as we do head into lock. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the core picks. We're going to start off with a paydown pitcher here, in Ian Seymour of the Tampa Bay Rays. It's his third career start. He's at $7,400. Technically, he's averaging 15 fantasy points per game, but like I mentioned, it's his third career start. He was primarily pitching out of the bullpen earlier this season. He's going against the Cleveland Guardians. He has one start versus them earlier this year, and he had 45 points in that start, so he does have good but limited history versus the Cleveland Guardians in the past. If we look at what he's done so far in the season, he's got 3 wins. ERA is at 2.97. Once again, average about 15 fantasy points per game at $7,400. And I did ultimately end up going with a paydown option here because I have some higher price hitters in our core picks for today. But if you want to pay up at pitcher, pay down at somewhere else, definitely do understand that, as we do have a good plethora of high-end pitchers on today's slate just in general. Then we're going to move down to our hitters. We're going to start off at first base with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's at $3,400, averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game on the season. And he's going against the New York Yankees. And Cam Slittler is the expected starting pitcher for the Yankees team. Vladimir Guerrero is 2 for 3 versus him in his career. He's got a 4-game hitting streak as we do speak, and 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, and 3 double-digit performances. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been performing really well as of late. He's at a .293 batting average, 22 home runs, 77 RBIs. Once again, averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game at $3,400. Then we're going to move down to shortstop with Trevor Story. He's at $3,400 as well. He's currently averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He is going against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Eduardo Rodriguez is the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 5 for 10 versus Rodriguez in his career, and he does have at least 1 hit and 2 out of his last 3 games. 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run, and 2 double-digit performances. So the recent history is pretty decent. If you go back a little bit further, a little bit more hit or miss, but he's had a really good season altogether. And if we look at what Trevor Story has been doing so far this season, .259 batting average, 23 home runs, 88 RBIs, once again averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game at $3,400. Then we're going to move down to our outfielders. We're going to start off with Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees, and he is $4,800, averaging about 15.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Toronto Blue Jays. Kevin Gausman is the expected starting pitcher for them, and he has good history versus Kevin Gausman in his career, as he is 16 for 45 with 6 home runs. So some really good history there. The most home runs of any hitter versus any pitcher on the slate just in general, on a modest 4-game hitting streak as we do speak. 2 multi-hit games, 2 home runs, 2 double-digit performances, and 3 games with at least 9 fantasy points for higher for Aaron Judge in those last 4 games. And if we look at what he's done on the season in totality, .323 batting average, 43 home runs, 97 RBIs, and he's currently averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game at $4,800. Been a very successful season once again for Aaron Judge. And then last but not least, we're going down to George Springer, who's kind of had a career resurgence this year. He's at $3,500, averaging just under 13 fantasy points per game. Going against the New York Yankees, Cam Slittler is still the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 1 for 1 versus him in his career. And if we look at what George Springer's done as of late, he does also have a modest 4-game hitting streak. 3 multi-hit games during that time span, 3 home runs, and 4 double-digit performances. And like I mentioned, George Springer's had a really resurgent year. He's at a .307 batting average, 27 home runs, 72 RBIs, once again averaging just under 13 fantasy points per game at $3,500. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you got $12,500 remaining, just over $3,100 remaining per player. So looking like a balanced build the rest of the way from here. Obviously, if you want to pay up at that pitcher position with these 4 hitters, you can definitely do that. If you want to pay up at that pitcher position and pay down at one of these other hitter spots, you can do that at the same time as well. Very interesting slate. I think it's going to make for a very good one overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Friday's slate overall. So we're going to start off off with the San Diego Padres. They're going against the Colorado Rockies out at Coors Field. Kyle Freeland is the expected starting pitcher for them. He most recently got ejected really early on in his most recent start, so that is why he's going to be pitching on Friday. So a little bit shorter rest than we would expect otherwise, although he didn't pitch very deep into that game whatsoever. But the Padres do have some pretty decent history versus him in the past. And then we move over to the Boston Red Sox going against Eduardo Rodriguez, who's had a very disastrous season, to put it nicely. But Red Sox do have some pretty decent history versus him in the past, although some of their hitters have a smaller sample size. But Alex Bregman and Trevor Story are going to lead the way in terms of hitters that do have good history versus him and a larger sample size at that. And then we have the Toronto Blue Jays, two of them being in our core picks, going against Cam Schlittler of the New York Yankees. He had one start versus them earlier this year, so some limited history there, but definitely do like what the Blue Jays bats have been doing as of late. And then the opposite side of that matchup, we got the New York Yankees going against Kevin Gausman. A lot of their hitters have fared very well against him in the past. And if I had to highlight three of them at this point in time, Aaron Judge, Paul Goldschmidt, and Giancarlo Stanton would be those three that do have the best success versus Kevin Gausman in the past. But with that being said, these are my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Friday, September 5th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report to have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will also be listing as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely make sure that you are checking up down in that comment section below so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information, especially as we do head into lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks, typically Monday through Friday. Thursdays have been hit or miss as of late, very smaller slates on Thursday, so definitely do apologize for that, but have been posting my notes up on Patreon for free for those smaller slates. And then I do typically have my CFL DFS video coming out once a week. Unfortunately, was not able to get to it this week, so I will be leaving my CFL DFS sheet up on my Patreon page for free for this week, so definitely feel free to check that out. And then also be looking out for some NFL DFS content, probably going more with a core pick strategy this year, but if you guys have any feedback in regards to NFL DFS type of video that you would like to see, definitely feel free to let me know at the same time as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and PrizePicks. If you are a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For PrizePicks, it's 100% match up to $100, and then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Friday, September 5th.